Okay, today we'll look at how to create the pulse train to send the data from an STM32F4 board to these addressable RGB LEDs using the timers, the hardware timers on the STM32 board. Now my setup here is pretty simple. I'm going to write my code on my computer. I'm going to use one of those cheap imitation SD links to be able to program a fairly basic little dev board that I brought. It's an STM32F4 I have a power source here to provide 5-volt powers to actually power the LED. I simply have a common ground coming from the dev board, and I've also connected the output pin from one of the timers to the data pin of my LEDs. Okay, a quick note on just the setup of my MCU. I am using an external crystal, which is an 8 megahertz. I've used the Cube MX tool to get it to set it up for the clock frequency to run at 168. But most importantly, my timer clocks, the timer I'm using is going to be on the APB1 clock, running at 84 megahertz. All right, so my timer is going to click away at 84 megahertz. At the moment, I have here, I'm going to use timer 4 channel 1, which happens to be on the D port on pin 12. What I'm going to do is, instead of using Cube MX to set it up, I'm going to set it up manually myself. All right, so the only thing Cube MX is going to do is going to set up the clocks for me and get everything running. Okay, let's have a look at what data actually has to be sent to this LED strip to control the colors of it. Each LED needs 24 bits of data because it can display 24-bit color. It gets 8 bits of how much green, 8 bits of how much red, and 8 bits of how much blue. Each one of those bits is written in this form. If it's a 0, the data line will go high for the length of TOH and then low for the length of TOL. If it's a 1, it goes high for the length of T1H, then low for the level of T1L. Right? If it's been low for longer than the reset time, then the LED considers the transmission's finished and it will reset, waiting for the next transmission. Here's the timing on this particular LED, which is the WS2812B. I've brought this one up because this is the particular IC that ADA Fruit use for their branded NeoPixels, and this is the timings required to drive the ADA Fruit NeoPixels. But there is a lot of other chips around, and we can have a look earlier on. This was the more common one around, and you can see the timings are quite different. There's also this one here, which the timings are quite different. And there's this one here, which the timings are different again. There's this brand here, which the timing different again. And these ones here, which also have different timings. This is quite difficult because if you have just brought off the internet a strip of these LEDs, you don't necessarily know which IC it has and which timings it needs. I've found I just generally try a few different timings till I find the one that works for the particular strip I've got. And I've done this, the strip I got today, I know must be a WS2811 because these timing here is what makes the strip work correctly. Let's start with looking at the variables that I use. Some don't change, so I've simply just defined them. I have my timer frequency, which is ticking away at 84 megahertz, and I'll put .0 at the end of it so that it'll do float division instead of integer division. And these are the timings that I need for my particular LEDs. You may need to change them for your LEDs. LED data is the byte array that holds all the bytes for all the colors of all the LEDs. Now my strip has 60 LEDs and I need 3 bytes per LED, so there's a total of 180 bytes. Pos is just a variable I use for cycling through all these different bytes, and then mask is what I use to pick off each individual bit out of that byte, and that mask I just move that one along all the way along till I get to the end and reset it back to the into the center and then move on to the next byte. Last bit is just a Boolean I use as a flag of whether all the bits have been sent or not, to know whether to finish the transmission or not. Right? Period is a variable. I store the actual length of each timer tick. We know the frequency is 84 megahertz, or it does it 84 million times per second, but that doesn't tell us how long each cycle takes, which is what we need to know. The period is just simply 1 over the frequency. Then I have 4 variables that I store the timing for the counters to count to in order to create the timings. The counters work. They start at 0. They set the pin high. They count away at the frequency of the timer till they reach the value in the capture compare register. Then they set the bit low. Then they continue to count away till they get to the auto reload register, and then they reset and they go back and they do the whole thing all over again. All right, so I can control the timings of how long it's high and how long it's low by the values I put in these. Okay, let's look at some of the setup code. These first few lines here just set up the pin, right? First of all, the pin is on port D, so I need to enable port D. The pin I want to use as an alternative function. They can be set up as an input, an output, an analog, or alternative function. Of course, I'm going to be using alternative function. And then I need to set up which particular alternative function I want. And the particular alternative function I want is going to be pin 12 on port D to alternative function timer 2 to 5. Now, if we want to see where all that code comes from, we can have a look in the reference manual for the particular chip I want, which is this one here. It's the same for all these other chips, but it's in this reference manual. If I look down here in number 8, we have the explanation of how all the GPIO work. We come down here to registers, it will list the registers, which is what I was just writing to. So I set up the mode. Let's have a look at mode here. We can set it up to be input, general purpose output, alternative function, or analog. So we set up pin 12, which is just there. We wrote a 1 and a 0 into those bits there to set up pin 12. Then we also set the particular alternative function that we want. Coming down here, we set it to alternative function 2, which if we scroll up, you can see a little bit up here further where the table is for the alternative functions. Oh, here we go. We want alternative function 2, which is timer 3 to 5. Now this next section of code actually set up the timers. The first bit up there set up the pins, so now we're going to set up the timers. We need to enable timer 4, the clock for timer 4. We're going to set the pre-scaler to 0, so that means the timer will tick away at 84 megahertz. We're not going to scale it down at all, but let it go as fast as possible. We need to, in the control register, set it up to output PWM to a pin. But at the moment, we're actually going to disable that output pin. This is because between transmissions, the LED wants the pin to sit low. If we have the pin enabled, then it tends to sit high. So we disable the pin and it sits low. And most importantly, we want to actually make sure, although the timer is set up, the timer is actually disabled, because we only want it operating the pin when we're going to transmit data. Now there's one more little tricky bit that I discovered, is this particular bit in this particular register allows for any changes we make to any of these other registers to take effect immediately, where if this bit's not set, what it'll do is not till it completely finishes that cycle that the update will take effect. All right? And then also, most of all, we need to enable the timer to set an interrupt flag in order to get it to spark an interrupt when we're going to change the timing for the next bit. And of course, we actually need to also, not in the timer register, but actually enable that timer 4 interrupt. Okay, the very last bit of the setup code, we're going to calculate the timings. First of all, we need to know the period, or how long it takes for each tick of the timer, and the period is just simply 1 over the timer frequency, or 1 divided by 84. Right, now the timer works by, it sets the pin high, it counts up every time this ticks over. When it gets to the amount in the capture compare register, then it sets the pin low, then it continues to count until it reaches the value in the auto reload register, then it goes back to the beginning and starts all over again. So the bit will go high for this value, and then it will go low when we get to this value. So we want it to go high for the timings of the high, and then we want it to stay low until we have till it gets the value of the high plus the low. Right, and we're going to do that for the timings of the low and the timings of the high, which is what I've calculated there. Okay, let's look at the function called Showpixels, which gets it transmitting the data. All right, the first thing I do is I set up the timer for whatever the very first bit's going to be. So I'm looking at the very first position in the LED data array, and I'm going to mask it with the very first bit. The very first bit is high, I will set it up for the high timings, else I'll set it up for the low timings. Of course, I set my position to be 0 because I want the interrupt to start picking off the bits at the 0 position. I set my flag last bit to 0 because obviously I'm not at the last bit. I set up my mask not to be at the first bit, but actually to start at the second bit in, because I've already set up the first bit. And then once all that's done, I'm going to start the process by enabling the output pin and enabling the timer. Because I've enabled the output pin and the timer will start to tick away and start to operate the output pin. When it gets all the way to the end of the first cycle, and it hits the number in the auto reload register, it will fire an interrupt while continuing to count away. Okay, let's look at the interrupt handler where all the magic happens. The first couple of lines here is just clearing the interrupt flag, because we've got an interrupt. We want to clear the flag so that when it comes around the next time, it will fire the next time. Basically, we say if the position we're in is smaller than the size of the LED, i.e. we haven't finished going through all the LED data first. All right, we're going to come into here, right? Then whatever position we are at, with whatever mask we are at, right? If it's a 1, set the timing to 1, else set the timing to 0, all right? The timings for the 0, all right? Once we get to the end there, if the mask equals 1, i.e. at the very end, this mask has moved all the way down to the end here. If it's got to that position, then we want to set the mask to the very first position and move our position 1 byte along further. If we haven't, just simply move the mask down 1 bit. All right. So if it's got to the end of the if it hasn't got to the end of the data, it runs there. If it has got to the end of the data at the last bit, what we need to do is we need to do 1 more cycle so the last bit totally goes out. So the very first time it comes in here, last bit will still be 0, and then it sets last bit to 1. It finishes, the next time the interrupt fires, when it comes back down here, because last bit is 1, it will come back in here, will disable the output pin and disable the channel, the timer, because then the transmission is finished. All right. So just this area here is what simply sets up the timer for the next timing. Okay, now let's look at actually using those functions to fill an array. So first off, I just set up the NeoPixels, called the setup library. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that array with a repeating pattern of green, red, blue. So just simply done a for loop that starts at 0, goes up as high as 180 because that's the last byte, and each time I step up 9 bytes. That's because there's 3 bytes per LED and I want to step up in bunches of 3 LEDs. The first LED I'm going to set to 25. I'm not going to use 255 because the LEDs are so bright it blinds the camera. So I use a very low value to make it easier for me to film with the camera. Then I'm going to leave the second byte and the third byte still at 0, so it just shows up green. Then I'm going to get onto my second LED and I'm going to set the second byte of my second LED to 25, which means my second LED will become red. And then the third LED, I will just set the third byte in it, which is 8, the very last one, of course numbered 0 to 9 for the 9 bytes, to 25, so it will show up blue. All right. And then after that, I simply call the Showpixels, and then it just goes into an infinite loop. All right, so simply. Okay, so there's my code. I'm going to come up, press run, hit save, okay. It's going to start compiling away, and boom, there we go. All right. I come back over here, and I say, I want to take out this first line here. All right, so now it's no longer going to set the green pixel. I go up to hit run again. Yep. Come back over here. And of course all the green pixels gone out. Go back here, put that green pixel back in again. Hit run. Hit OK. Boom, there's that green pixel back in again. All right, there she is in action.